Hi, my name is Christian, and I go to school at Texas State, and this is my testimony. I was born in Japan because my mother had fled to my grandparents from my abusive father. This incited my family to move to America for a better life. My mother had taken up a couple of jobs, so I was living mainly with my grandparents for a few of those years, until my mother had married to my stepfather. They had 2 kids, and we left where we had first originally moved to, which was Nevada, to Texas for my stepfather's career and a better financial situation. I realized that while I was living in Texas, I was kind of neglected. My mother was working a lot, and my stepfather was spending a lot more time with my step-siblings. And because of this, I started to develop a more antisocial personality. There wasn't much practice in my family of religion, but my stepfather was a Jehovah's Witness, and we kind of gotten some of that influence, mostly the holidays aspect. And honestly, I really didn't hear about God much until I got into high school. And this happened through my first girlfriend. My first girlfriend was a Christian. She was very solid in her faith. And one thing that I noticed really about her was that she had a really good family behind that. She had great parents who supported her in her practice and encouraged her growth in faith. And to me, this was just a strange sight to see because of how loving and how open and sociable they were to each other, especially with this whole God aspect behind that. And so I developed a faith that was very rooted much into loving my girlfriend instead of loving God. It was more of a loving God because my girlfriend loved me. This eventually changed my junior year of high school. School was getting more intense, and my mom and stepfather were arguing a lot, which incited their divorce later on. And when they got divorced, a month later, I was dumped by my girlfriend, and this sent me into a spiral of depression. I would sleep after school all the time and not really eat, and I would associate myself with some really bad people and just act out in theft. Eventually, my parents had sold their house where we were living, and I needed a place to go. I eventually exhausted all of my options, and I needed to live with someone, so I had turned to my ex's parents. So they took me in, and as a result of that was me going to church again and finding out that I had really needed God, but so much so in the fact that I needed to atone for some of the bad things in my life, and I needed to work to get God's love. And this eventually led to a workspace space where if I was doing really well, like in church or in small group, I was doing well with God. But eventually I ran from that again when I was given the option to live with my grandparents. And I opted to choose that because I wanted to get away from the life that I had created in my old town. So whenever I had moved to my grandparents, I found a community in that new high school that I went to my senior year, just hanging out with people and making really good friends that I had never really got to make in my old high school because of the way I would be antisocial. But I would still keep up this facade of being cool and acting out and trying to be a performer of all sorts in front of these people, and I would never really show them the true inner emotions that I had towards people and towards myself. Eventually, as school started to end, I had a girlfriend who was also really good in her faith. And the relationship was really good on the outside, but on the inside, there was a lot of manipulation that I wasn't aware of, and eventually we broke up. And this had happened September 4th of 2016, and back to school and college, and the cycle repeated over. I would not eat. I would skip some classes, and I eventually failed a biology exam, and I was sleeping for 12 hours a day. So this cycle went on for like a good week, and I needed help, so I sought out counseling from the school. I talked to a psychiatrist, and he told me that one of the biggest things I needed was to talk with people about this, and I was given an option to go to a party and hang out with one of the friends that I had made, or to go to church. So I slept through the party and went to church. When I went to church, it was kind of unsettling because we were inside an elementary school, and the pastor was a lot younger than I had known pastors to be, but there was a greatness to that, in the sense that because I had no expectations, God sought me out, and he showed me a message that was specifically about depression. And I just thought, sitting there, like, wow, this was a really good thing, that God has the ability to help me through such things like depression that I had been dealing with for a while. And because of that, I sparked a curiosity to know more about God. And on my campus, I would seek out other campus ministries and keep learning about God, until one day, October 4th of 2016, I was walking around campus, and I saw my friend who had invited me to church, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to go meet this guy," and in my mind I was thinking, cool, I'm going to go meet another freshman who I can make a friend with and stuff, and stop being like so lonely. And I talked with him. The guy came up, he was a 30-year-old dude, and I was like, cool, this is different. He turned out to be on staff with crew, and he asked me a lot of questions as to, like, oh, who are you, what are you doing, what's your background in the church, and all that. And he actually listened to a lot of the questions, or a lot of the answers that I gave to him, and I felt like a genuine care within him because of that. I thought that he really wanted to know me and truly know me. And after our conversation, he pulled out a KGP and went over the gospel with me. And as we were going through it, things that I had questions about God started to line up and were making sense. And later on that day, he prayed with me, and he asked me if I wanted to accept Christ for my life, and I did. And ever since then, I've been going along with this whole God thing, and I love it. My life isn't perfect, and no life ever will be, but I think the biggest takeaway is that because of that one interaction, I was able to overcome a lot of iniquities in my life and a lot of problems, and that I can turn to God whenever I feel abandoned